Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Elizabeth Herr. Here are the top 5 things to know this Friday. Number 1, the surprising admission from the White House.
Aides close to President Trump are scrambling to distance themselves from the admission by acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. He seemed to confirm that the Trump administration withheld millions in military aid from Ukraine for political purposes. After hours of backlash, Mulvaney attempted to walk back his comments, claiming his remarks were misconstrued. Number 2, new fighting has erupted in Syria, according to the Associated Press.
Journalists on the ground report seeing shelling and smoke despite a new U.S. brokered deal. That agreement calls for Turkey to cease firing for 5 days if Kurdish fighters retreat from the northern Syria. On to number 3, several people were injured when a commuter plane ran off a runway in Alaska.
However, no members of the high school swim team aboard were hurt. It stopped with its nose hanging over a rocky embankment over the Bering Sea. The plane carried 39 people on a flight from Anchorage. The cause of the accident is not known. We head to Chicago for number 4, where teachers are back on the picket lines for a second day.
Classes are once again canceled for nearly 400,000 public school students. Both sides remain far apart despite 10 hours of negotiations on Thursday. And finally, number 5, dramatic subway rescue in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
A woman was accidentally shoved onto the tracks by a fainting man just as the train approached. Commuters waved their hands to alert the driver to stop. He slammed on the brakes inches away from the woman. Passengers then jumped on the tracks to help that victim there. She and the man were treated by paramedics.
Once again, good Friday morning, everyone. Let's get right to that big story, though. Aides close to President Trump are scrambling to distance themselves from an astounding admission made by acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. He acknowledged a quid pro quo with Ukraine and told reporters to get over it. Later, Mulvaney claimed his remarks were misconstrued. Well, ABC's Inez de la Cuetara joins us now from Washington with all the details. Inez, good morning.
Good morning, Elizabeth and Kenneth. Well, acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney is admitting something the president had been denying for weeks, that there was a quid pro quo when President Trump asked the leader of Ukraine to investigate his political opponents. Overnight, President Trump still slamming the impeachment inquiry.
And now they continue the outrageous impeachment witch hunt with nothing. With nothing.
As his acting Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, appears to confirm the very thing House investigators have been looking into.
And I have news for everybody. Get over it. There's going to be political influence in foreign policy.
Acknowledging the Trump administration did withhold military aid to Ukraine in part to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Democrats.
But to be clear, what you just described is a quid pro quo. It is funding will not flow unless the investigation into the Democratic server happens as well.
We do that all the time with foreign policy.
It contradicts what the president has been saying for weeks.
There was no quid pro quo at all.
Mulvaney later claiming his comments were misconstrued, writing in a statement, "The only reasons we were holding the money was because of concern about lack of support from other nations and concerns over corruption."
Things have just gone from very, very bad to much, much worse.
Mick Mulvaney said that aid to Ukraine was frozen in part to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Democrats. Do you still think there's nothing to see here?
What did he say?
He said that he admitted that military aid to Ukraine was frozen in part to put pressure on Ukraine to investigate Democrats.
So Mick Mulvaney just said what you said?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. I'd like to know what that means.
Meanwhile, written testimony from EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland, obtained by ABC News, shows Sondland testified the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, told him that if the Ukrainians wanted a meeting with the president, they would have to issue a statement promising to investigate Democrats and the company that Hunter Biden had been doing business with. This all happening as Energy Secretary Rick Perry handed in his resignation. Perry has emerged as a key witness in the House impeachment inquiry. Both he and Mulvaney have until the end of the day today to hand over documents related to Ukraine that they were subpoenaed for. Elizabeth and Kenneth.
All right, Inez, thank you so much. Rick Perry, one of the longest serving members of the president's cabinet. And now to what President Trump calls a ceasefire in Syria, saying it's a great day for civilization, but Turkish officials are not as enthusiastic, describing the U.S. brokered deal as a 5-day pause in the attacks against Kurdish fighters in northern Syria. And this morning, journalists on the ground report seeing shelling and smoke in Syria despite the new agreement. This morning, President Trump is taking a victory lap after his administration claims they've brokered a deal to halt the Turkish assault on the Kurds in northern Syria.
Great day for the Kurds. It's really a great day for civilization, and we've gotten everything we could have ever dreamed of.
The announcement from Vice President Mike Pence followed a 5-hour meeting with Turkish President Erdogan.
A week after Turkish forces crossed into Syria, Turkey and the United States of America have agreed to a ceasefire in Syria.
But Turkey says it's not a ceasefire, only a pause, with Kurdish forces given 5 days to get out of the region. In exchange, if the fighting ends, the U.S. agreed to lift the sanctions they imposed on Turkey this week. The Turkish invasion begins shortly after President Trump's decision to pull American troops out of northern Syria, sparking immediate criticism the U.S. was abandoning the Kurds, U.S. allies who helped in the fight against ISIS. Despite the president's declarations of success, even some of his Republican allies are questioning his decision-making.
It does not appear to me, however, with all due respect, that this is really a ceasefire. It is more an ultimatum, because what it basically is saying is Erdogan is saying, here's land that I intend to take.
Even harsher words coming from Utah Senator Mitt Romney.
Are we so weak and so inept diplomatically that Turkey forced the hand of the United States of America? Turkey?
And now, the president's decision to pull our troops out of Syria is drawing fire from his former defense secretary. Overnight, General James Mattis let loose on the president, a day after Trump reportedly called him the world's most overrated general.
I mean, I'm not just an overrated general. I am the greatest, the world's most overrated. And I'm honored to be considered that by Donald Trump, because he also called Meryl Streep an overrated actress. So I guess I'm the Meryl Streep of generals. And frankly, that sounds pretty good to me. And you do have to admit that between me and Meryl, at least we've had some victories.
General Mattis there with the jokes. And the retired Navy admiral who oversaw the raid on Osama bin Laden is also blasting President Trump. In a New York Times op-ed, William McRaven writes, if this president doesn't demonstrate the leadership that America needs, both domestically and abroad, then it is time for a new person in the Oval Office, Republican, Democrat, or Independent. The sooner, the better. The fate of our republic depends upon it. The president has defended McRaven's criticism in the past, calling him a Hillary Clinton supporter. Well, and another surprise announcement from President Trump. Next year's G7 summit will take place at his own golf resort in Miami.
That's right. Critics are slamming the plan, saying it takes accusations of corruption to a whole new level and gives the impeachment investigation more fodder.
The president did not mention his plan at a campaign rally in Dallas last night, but he did call efforts to get him out of office unpatriotic. ABC's Terry Moran has the details.
It was a major announcement and a major promotion for the president's brand straight from the White House podium. White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney revealing that next year's G7 summit will be at the Trump National Doral, the president's resort near Miami, meaning world leaders, their staff, and security will all be paying the Trump family when they check out.
It's not the only place. It's the best place.
Mulvaney said staffers started with a list of a dozen or so potential summit sites from Hawaii to Michigan to Florida, and that it was Trump himself who proposed the Doral.
We sat around one night, we were back in the dining room, and I'm going over it with a couple of our Vance team. We had the list, and he goes, what about Doral? And I was like, that's not the craziest idea. It makes perfect sense.
The Doral is an 800-acre resort. It has reportedly struggled to be profitable. The president made a personal pitch at the last G7 summit in France in August.
With Doral, we have a series of magnificent buildings. We call them bungalows. We have incredible conference rooms, incredible restaurants. It's like such a natural.
Mulvaney claims the Doral summit will save taxpayers millions of dollars.
Not making any money off of this, just like he's not making any money from working here.
But the decision has ethics watchdogs and Democrats outraged. House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler calling the move among the most brazen examples yet of the president's corruption. While Mick Mulvaney claimed the president's not going to make any profit, not one dime off this summit, the White House offered no numbers or explanation of how that might happen, saying dollar figures would be released afterwards. And when asked if this represents a major branding opportunity, Mulvaney only said, quote, I think Donald Trump's brand is probably strong enough. Terry Moran, ABC News, the White House.
Our thanks to Terry there. Well, some other stories we're watching this morning. New York City lawmakers have approved a plan to close the city's notorious Rikers Island jail by 2026.
The complex, known for violence and dysfunction, will be replaced by 4 smaller facilities closer to local courthouses. Lawmakers say the massive complex is no longer needed because of falling crime rates and criminal justice reforms. Critics say the timing is bad and it's a threat to public safety. Well, GM workers plan to stay on the picket lines until a new contract is approved. On Thursday, union leaders voted to extend the now 33-day-old strike. That's despite voting to recommend the tentative agreement to union members. Voting starts tomorrow and is expected to last for about a week. The strike has cost GM about $2 billion in earnings.
In California, a sheriff's investigator is on leave after a confrontation with teens. He allegedly pulled a gun on a group of teens at a skate park in Orange County. He was off duty at the time. The teens say the disagreement was over loud music. In a phone video, the man says one of the teens threatened to hit him in the face with a skateboard.
An intense gun battle crippled the streets of Culiacan, Mexico, during a search for the son of a notorious drug lord, El Chapo. Mexican security forces say they were on patrol when they came under heavy fire. The shootout lasted for hours until soldiers eventually found El Chapo's son, but they were outmatched by heavily armed cartel gunmen, and they decided to let him go. Well, NBA legend Michael Jordan is spending part of his fortune to help the poor get medical treatment.
And Emotional Jordan unveiled the first of 2 clinics in Charlotte, North Carolina. It will provide access to primary and preventative care to residents, including the uninsured or underinsured. The 6-time NBA champion and Charlotte Hornets owner donated $7 million to make the clinic a reality. The second clinic is expected to open late next year. So great work by MJ there, one of the greatest of all time, doing something pretty great.
Absolutely. And again, in addition to, I think earlier we were talking about this, medical treatment, they're going to try to provide people with some housing, help them with housing and some clothing and food options.
And they're already been working for the past few weeks after a soft opening, helping about 300 patients so far. So
yes, off to a great start.
Well, coming up, the mystery soldier finally identified in one of the most famous photos of all time.
But first, the tributes pouring in for late Congressman Elijah Cummings. This morning, we are remembering his words and his integrity. Stay with us.
We are determined to ensure the integrity of our voting system. And this time, all of our votes will be counted.
Of course, that was Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings firing up the crowd at the 2004 Democratic National Convention, famously defending every American's right to cast a vote.
We are looking back this morning on Congressman Cummings' inspirational career and his tireless work for justice and equality. He passed away early yesterday morning at the age of 68.
And this morning, his wife is opening up about the civil rights leader's final days.
The son of sharecroppers, Elijah Cummings is being revered for his ascent to the height of power in Washington, remembered fondly by lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. He started as a defense attorney, reportedly once saying that he was inspired by the TV character Perry Mason. From there, he entered the world of politics, known for his booming voice, a tell-it-like-it-is tongue, and dogged pursuit of civil rights. His quest as a champion for all people, evident even in his first speech on the House floor.
Our world would be a much better world and a much better place if we would only concentrate on the things we have in common.
He often challenged the Trump administration as chairman of the powerful House Oversight Committee.
Come on, man. What's that about?
And defended his hometown when the president called it rat and rodent infested.
Come to Baltimore. Do not just criticize us.
During the Freddie Gray riots, during some of Baltimore's darkest hours, he grabbed a bullhorn and urged a better way. He leaves behind 3 children and a grieving wife. Elijah Cummings was 68. Cummings had been suffering from health complications, his wife writing that he worked until his last breath and that he believed our country's diversity was our promise, not our problem. Lindsay Davis, ABC News, New York.
Wow, thanks to Lindsay there. Quite a life, quite a giant in politics and on Capitol Hill. A lot of reaction coming in this morning. Obviously, the moment that people started hearing the news, and on Capitol Hill, we heard from Speaker Pelosi, who said that the people of Baltimore, the U.S. Congress, and America have lost a voice of unsurpassed moral clarity and truth. You also had Steny Hoyer, who's the House Majority Leader, who said that he was a beacon of civility, of fairness, and justice. And then the Congressional Black Caucus also put out a statement, because we know that Cummings was in the Congressional Black Caucus for quite some time after being on the Hill and serving for some time. And they said that Elijah Cummings often said that our children are the living messages that we send to a future we will never see. And from this perspective, he fought to ensure that the next generation has access to a clean environment, affordable health care, a quality education, and financial stability. And so the Congressional Black Caucus also remembering Elijah Cummings, the nation remembering Elijah Cummings this morning.
I was just going to say one more note here. In addition to politicians, yesterday I was looking through the Twitter feeds and reactions, and one just student reacting to the Baltimore mayor's tweet saying, I was at he was a commencement speaker at my university, and I was so moved since I've been a fan, and I am so sorry for this loss, and this nation is just at a loss with this.
And really, yes, a lightning rod for partisan type of politics because it's a very divisive time. He sparred with President Trump, who put out a tweet statement after the passing as well, praising Elijah Cummings, even though they sparred in the political arena. But when it comes to his service to the country and the fact that he fought for the Constitution and defending the Constitution, you cannot deny that in his service, indeed. All right, well, let's check our notifications now, starting with this bizarre stunt out of Delray Beach, Florida. A naked man hopped onto a luxury yacht and allegedly stole an American flag and the flagpole. Authorities say he then jumped into the water and swam away. The naked bandit is now wanted by police. The owner of Delray Yacht Cruises is offering a reward for information leading to his arrest. And you know what they say, life in plastic, it's fantastic, at least in the Barbie world.
Cue the music, please. And now you can live in Barbie's world. Her Malibu dream house, there we go, will be available later this month on Airbnb. I'm kind of surprised, for just $60 a night. This is a real seaside villa, not just some miniature dollhouse.
I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. All right, so you and up to 3 friends can use the indoor theater, infinity pool, and even dress up in the walk-in closet. The listing goes live on Airbnb next Wednesday, and the Ken doll comes free. You can have it for free.
Yes, just in case you're wondering. Well, next, to the baseball-themed gender reveal that ended in a strikeout.
A family in California wanted to use a ball filled with either pink or blue powder, but there was one problem. Dad couldn't hit the ball. He swings and swings and swings, a total of 5 misses.
Then he tries to throw the ball to himself, and the ball hits the ground. And as you can see, there you go. Oh. It's a boy.
Well, he scored when it counted. And 2 Australian police officers had to really hop to rescue a kangaroo from a lake in Canberra. It's not unusual for kangaroos to go for a swim when upset. I didn't know they get upset like that and jump into bodies of water. But they often need help getting out. This one got some help from 2 cops on a jet ski.
And you know what? Not just once, but twice. Because, yeah, look at it dove right back into the water. But again, it was rescued twice. And hopefully did not jump back in.
Let's hope. Got to watch that kangaroo to see if he goes back, though. And then back in.
There you go.
Yep, that's the party. Now to one of the most iconic images in military history, the 6 men raising the American flag at Iwo Jima during World War II. But one of the soldiers has been left out of the history books until now. Taylor Holt from our Cedar Rapids, Iowa station talked with that soldier's family.
This is my dad.
To Kay Maurer, he's dad, but she's recently come to know he's earned another title as one of the heroes in this snapshot of history.
To have the Marine Corps send this official letter, you know, they had talked to me on the phone a few times and said, yes, we agree, but to get the letters, I'm going to frame it.
She says it all began with a call 2 years ago from private historian Brett Westermeyer from Johnston.
He was the one who first figured it out.
From there, answers no one expected flooding in.
This one here is just in front of his home.
The findings Westermeyer raised and several other historians confirmed by the Marine Corps and FBI investigators were key to identifying Keller.
The researchers found these two pictures.
Okay.
And then that gave them, you know, all the identifying things about the way he was dressed.
Through extensive research, including facial recognition, they determined Keller had been mistaken as Private First Class Renee Gagnon for more than 70 years.
Now it's just, you look at it and go, whoa, that's my dad. You know, just how amazing is that?
Surreal, but not totally surprising.
He never, ever said one thing about anything to do with the war, period.
But Kay says she thinks he did tell family.
When Dad got home from the war, I'm sure he told my mom. Once in a while, somebody would say, "Didn't your dad raise that flag?" And I would go, "I don't know," or no.
All while the evidence was right there in their home.
This is the side that you always see when you see the photo. Then if you turn and look at the back side, this is Dad.
She and her husband Steve say this recognition is an honor.
Right here.
But not everything.
The odds of him making it through this whole campaign and going home and being a normal person and having a family and having a normal life are infinitesimal.
Those flag raisers, in the context of being a flag raiser, those aren't the heroes. The heroes are every single person that put on a military uniform and puts their life on hold for our country.
With or without the recognition, the fond memories of her dad are always there.
What best father in the world.
Harold Keller passed away from a heart attack in 1979 at the age of 57. Amazing to hear about one of those men behind that iconic photo from his family, echoing the sentiment we've heard time and time again that all the soldiers who put their lives at risk for their country are the real heroes there. So just an incredible story, and nice to see that he's finally being honored.
Getting the recognition that he surely deserves.
Well, coming up, a few things left on the schedule before we head into the weekend. We'll tell you what's going on in the day ahead.
Plus, meet the very excited young hockey player making waves for his post-game interview skills after this. And here's what to watch out for today. Senator Elizabeth Warren is set to hold a town hall at Chartway Arena in Norfolk, Virginia. You can watch that right here on ABC News Live at 4 Eastern.
Actress and activist Jane Fonda is set to lead climate protests dubbed Fire Drill Fridays in Washington, D.C. after being inspired by young activists. Fonda says she is prepared for more arrests after being taken away by police during the inaugural protest last week.
The New Orleans plans to implode the two cranes swaying above the Hard Rock Hotel collapse. The city's fire chief announced the controlled demolition in a press conference as the possibility of tropical storm force winds poses a new danger.
Australian airline Qantas is flying the world's longest continuous flight from New York to Sydney, which will take 20 hours and arrive on Sunday.
And history will be made 250 miles above Earth as astronauts Christina Koch and Jessica Meir step out of the International Space Station for the first ever all-female spacewalk.
Plus, don't forget to tune into the debrief for an update on all our top stories in the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
And finally, to what's being called the best hockey post-game interview ever.
This week, the Washington Capitals let some of their littlest fans play a scrimmage during intermission, but there was one player who really stole the show, both on the ice and in front of the camera.
I'm a tarantula named Michael. He's a curly hair. He just had 2 crickets on Monday, 1 on Sunday. He has a big appetite.
You scored 2 goals out there, and guess what? We're going to watch them on that big screen. You ready?
Yeah! I'm so excited. I'm like seriously excited. I'm kind of shy, but mostly excited and courageous.
I love it. Let's check it out, guys.
He's kind of shy, but, mostly courageous. Young Jackson went on to say that hockey isn't about winning. It's about having fun.
That tarantula's name is Michael. And this is
his name is
Jackson. Oh, yeah. I see what they did there. He's amazing. He's incredible. And that is just a way to go right on to the weekend.
Love it, love it, love it.
All right, we will see you on Monday. Have a great day.
Enjoy your weekend.
Love it.